Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson. I'm your host, Dr. Jefferson, and today we're going to just talk about a video. Briefly, we're going to have a conversation about a video that was uploaded on Kevin Samuel's page today. Um, and Well, I'm glad that you're doing well, Lisa. And I'm going to play the video for you guys. Over the course of me playing this video, I want to make sure that you guys understand that viewer discretion is definitely advised anytime that you're viewing any content that Kevin Samuels put out there, because the guy can definitely be triggering for people. So I want to encourage you guys to come over to YouTube if you're watching me on Facebook. Hey, Chaz, how are you? And thank you, girl. This is like my favorite wig. But yeah, I do want to encourage you guys to come on over to the YouTube channel because we're going to sit here for a while, but we're only going to be here for about an hour. So you guys know my shows typically go much longer than that. We're going to just view some content and we're going to react to some of the ways that he's becoming a bit untethered, if you will, you know? So let's go ahead and get into this. Oh.
FBI. How we doing, everybody? Have all the things that any woman would want. And to be honest, you got to realize you got to be a hell of a black man to be able to date interracially. Just think about that. With all the crap that's been spewed out about the black male image, black men to be able to marry interracially, you're not going. They're not going for scrubs. Why is this important? Why is this important? Because we're talking about thorough men, and you're losing out on your thorough brothers. And it's not because they don't want you. Let me tell you a story. Tell you a little story. Throughout my years, I've sat down in many fraternity meetings, many men's groups at church, out of church, and I've listened to men, black men in particular, profess their deep desire to be with a black woman and to raise children that look like them. And I have seen grown men damn near come to tears with the realization that women on their level are so distasteful. You go in the comment section on Instagram or YouTube, and there are non-black women, and then they're talking about, wow, it's really sad to hear so many men just saying they want a woman to be nice to them. See, the things that you hold dearly.
Oh, you guys can't hear me. So, but what I'm saying is initially, and I'm sure you guys were able to hear him because I was sharing my computer audio with him. My mic wasn't on. But what I'm saying is like Kevin Samuels initially subscribed to the idea that women were only objectified. So basically, men only wanted women who had a certain look. So as long as you were an attractive woman, and even if you were average at best, you could attract a high value man. So now all of a sudden men want women of substance, women who love them, who show them affection, who are nice to them. They're hurt and they want to be involved with black women now all of a sudden. Come on, dude, make it make sense to me. At least be consistent with your foolery. So what I see now is, like I told you guys last night, Kevin Samuels is constantly changing himself and rebranding himself. He's trying to cater to a different group of people, and he's also trying to reposition himself and mature in life, because obviously he's out here trying to officially court or date six the goddess or something like that. I guess that's the IG model that he's after, that young girl. But it is what it is. I think that let's continue to watch some more.
Becky gives away for free up front. They come through the door caring. They come through the door interested. They come through the door girly and flirting. They come through the door affectionate and loving. They come through the door reliable. They come through the door with a good attitude. They come through the door with a can do spirit, because they're not thinking about impress me, prove to me, make me, show me why you're worth me taking time off my job. They're thinking, oh, wow, this is a man who I could get with and build with, and he can provide for me and my future generations, on and on and on. And if I treat him right, I don't have to go out and work and do like these other things. They're sitting back saying, oh, they left the door open. You're telling men that to sit down and prove something to you, and they've already proved that they are who they need to be. They're high value. That means it's good enough for you to compete for. And see, you go on YouTube or online and you hear woman after woman after woman, black woman after black woman after black woman calling these women pick me's. Understand something. The kind of men we're talking about, there is a burden of performance. And so many women want the world to be fair, fair and equitable. You know what's fair and equitable? That these men have someone to choose from. I know many black men who are married to non-black women who will tell you they wanted to marry a black woman. So I think it's a damn shame that so many black women lose high-value black men. I'm not talking about athletes, entertainers, and musicians. I'm talking about doctors, lawyers, pharmacists, accountants, general contractors, owners of logistics firms, science, engineering, technology, math. I'm talking about the men who who gain respect in any room they go into. Men who every other group of men identify as being high value. You might be a rich athlete, entertainer, or musician, but if I take you to a chamber of commerce meeting, a guy from another nationality or culture may not resonate with your money, but they do resonate with a guy who had to build his trucking firm up from one truck to being the largest distributor on the West Coast. Ladies, you think how often do I hear black women talking about these other women are trying to be us? They're trying to be us. They're culturally appropriating us. No, what they're doing is they're mimicking a look that a black man likes. Black men are naturally.
Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's have this conversation, you guys, because like I said, I ain't got time for the foolery today. But let's definitely analyze this. Okay, so what he's saying is, a black woman, a white woman, a non-black woman of any culture needs to appease what it is that black men are saying that they want, or men in general are saying they want. Women, let me make the first thing clear. The first thing is this: although I think people have overrate social media when it comes to the overarching importance to sense of self, black women are in competition with no one. They just aren't. The only competition that black women are in, healthy black women, that are out there that should be dating in the first place because they've done their work, they've healed, they reveal layers of themselves, they're constantly, doing the introspective work that would allow them to move themselves and position themselves in a higher capacity of awareness in life, right? So these women are not in competition with any other race of women. And at the end of the day, we recognize that whether it's a black man that we date or another man that we date or whoever we date, who cares? It's about personal preference and the way that guy treats us and makes us feel valued, heavily valued in his life, important. The guy that pedestalizes us appropriately, because at the end of the day he needs to put you at a higher standard than he does way other women. We don't want men to isolate their views and only direct their views and value for women towards us, because we know that there are other women in the world, but we want you to make sure that you put us on a pedestal because we are your woman, regardless of if it's a woman that identifies with the black and brown community, or if it's a woman that identifies with the Hispanic community or the white community or otherwise. Women in general want to be valued by their men appropriately as compared to the way that he sees other women. That's the whole part in this wonderful Bible for Christian people, especially this guy. You say you grew up in, you know, a Christian background, right? It means that you understand that the vow says that you're supposed to be forsaking all others and clinging to that of your wife. So if you're clinging to your wife, if you're forsaking other women, it means that you're not sexualizing other women. You don't look at women inappropriately when you decide that this woman is your wife for life, right? Your life partner. Good afternoon, Faith. How are you? But so I think that the problem is with Kevin Samuels, he's either going to put black women in a place to where they're competing, they must be competing with black men, or he has to put black women in a place where they're competing with some other woman of a different race or other women. Women don't need to compete, sweetheart. Men are hunters. Women do not need to compete. And for the women out there who are insecure in their sense of self, who are not quite sure as to how it is that you gravitate to and pull in a man that is meant for you and can truly add value to you. Hey, Liz, how are you? Let me give you guys a piece of advice, some wisdom, okay? More secure you are in yourself, the more attractive you are to a man of substance. The only man who will add value to you is a man who sees your worth within the complexities of how you view self. Because he's looking at how you view yourself, how you care for yourself, how you do things that attribute to the value for yourself, so that he can see that, oh, if she cares for herself in this way, if she's taking care of herself in this way, if she's balanced and tethered in this way, she can truly add value to me because she mimics the types of behaviors that I would want to see in a healthy woman, that I would want in my healthy relationship going forth in my life as a healthy man. I think that I think he definitely is trying to oppress black women, but I just don't see that happening because, as you will see in this video, he never has the information he needs for him to go forth in an argument viably. And it's interesting to me how he wants to negate, you want to exclude a certain group of men, but the reality is your stats are wrong. When you talk about the future promise for women getting married, for one, you're not a woman. I can understand that you have a lot of feminine attributes and things like that, and you definitely were raised around a lot of women. So maybe he identifies with the struggle of a woman that was not selected. So he does perform, he acts, and his ideas are like that of a pick me woman, exactly what he's talking about. So it's possible that we're watching a man here who is feminine just because of the things that he's denied himself, and the world also has equally denied him, like stable marriage, stable income, stable provisions for his family and things like that. So it's possible that that's the pathology of a guy like this. I don't know, you know. But I will say this, women are not in competition with anyone, sweetheart. And women are not losing black men. We are not losing black men to anyone. We aren't. And I think that you guys are going to see that based off of the people who calls into his show. Because at the end of the day, Hey Lisa, how are you? Did you share my content onto your page? I learned last night from, I think, let me see your transcript, shared it with me, and she told me that I need to be monetized before I have a community page. That's probably appropriate though, because I'm gonna be honest, community wall, because I don't even know what that is, but I'm new to these YouTube streets. I'm bringing over my Facebook following into here so I can build over here and do all of that good stuff. Awesome. You're awesome. So, all of you guys who are monetized and you do have that community wall thing or whatever, if you can share the video, share the video. Also, the people that are on Facebook, share the video as well, because there is a link to the YouTube as well. And if you guys want to join the conversation in the chat, because my chat is always friggin' amazing. Um, this is a channel about accountability conversations where we have the difficult conversations and face difficult truths, but also debunk myths that maintain or perpetuate the cycle of division between Black and Brown people in the Black and Brown community. We also talk about accountability in other facets that affect the Black and Brown community in America and abroad. So, what I want to say is this, even though he's trying to push this narrative, he even has a very difficult time finding the right types of callers for him to have this argument with in a productive manner, because nobody who calls in is in alignment with what he's idealizing as a perfect person to have that argument with. And that's for a couple of reasons. The reality is this: even though we want to negate reality and we don't want to see Black love in its exponential value, right? And we don't want to see how it's growing and continuously thriving. The reality is this: most people will look at the couples that they see in the media. So these will be celebrity couples. These are the people that they will name. The only thing that he references, the only people he references where he has validity is a freaking movie. It's a movie. It's not a Lifetime movie either. It's a fucking no. It's Waiting to Exhale. That's what he uses. He uses Waiting to Exhale. He references Waiting to Exhale to depict the picture that Black men are leaving Black women for white women. What the fuck? Help him, Jesus. So come on, let's watch some more. Take us to church.
Black men are naturally drawn to women who are more voluptuous and curvaceous. That's what we like.
What? 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 This statement, are you guys hearing this? This statement is coming from a guy who believes that the inundated stats, okay, of height and weight, comparisons from the 90s, he's now saying that Black men are attracted to curvaceous women. Curvy women, we weigh more. We weigh more. Okay. We weigh more, but we definitely tape out. Because the waist is definitely going to be slim. The ass and the hips are going to be fat. Those are things that are attributes for us. But the reality is, those wonderful stats that he references oftentimes and asks these women, what's your height, what's your weight, what's your dress size? Dress size might add up, but the weight will not. It's just not. And the reality is, I think that he's trying to come into manhood. Dude, you're in your 50s. Nobody wants you. Nobody wants you. You have zero value to a woman, period. Whether she's a modern woman or a traditional woman. Nobody wants you. You have zero value. A man who feels like he has to devalue women in order for him to have some value, that's a real issue for people in general. So it doesn't matter what woman it is, she doesn't want you. If you find a woman courting you, dating you, she has no intentions to be with you. She has intentions maybe for your finances, for your money, but she definitely doesn't want you. I think that he renders respect to people like Blue Jasmine, because he realizes in the grand scheme of things, this is probably going to be the only way I find myself in a relationship where I'm tethered with female presence. there is an issue, I think, with both men and women, but I think the issue is that at this point, so many women are taking sight of the fact that these broken men who weren't qualified for a seat at their table at all, right? And I'm gonna get to that, you know. But you have these broken men like Kevin Samuels, the vast majority of his following as well, right? It's gonna do some of these comments. Yeah, those are his super chats. And look at the amounts of money that these people are donating. It says something about us. It does say that there is something wrong with us. When you're sitting here taking in, and I'm going to be honest, I feel like he's the most authentic here in this presentation with this content, saying that men have a need to be, treated well in relationship, desired, and have a woman who values him, right? And loves him and shows him that she has this lingering value for him and a tremendous amount of affect. I think that he is more accurate in that picture, but of course I think that he's just a person who will play to whatever tune it is that sells, right, tickets. So I think that he's just listening to the content of many people who have come on to his show and argued that point, and now he's finally just letting that buy in, but wants it to look like it's coming from an authentic place. But sir, you have over hundreds of videos on the internet of you saying that women should only look a certain way and be able to fucking cook. Like really. So that I'm just not buying that that's how he really feels about women, because I know better. But I will say this: men do need women that are affectionate, that affirm how they feel about him, that make him feel good, that is his piece, because essentially that's what a man needs in order for him to be a viable component out here in this world where he's supposed to be out protecting and providing for that woman, for that family. I think that we have to move away from the childish dynamics, thinking that grown people don't have a past, grown people don't have kids in their 30s and 40s, right? Even though there are a small amount of people who meet that criteria, right? The valuability of a relationship with them now you're trying to build at that particular age, is going to be even harder for them to step into the parental role because they haven't had a chance to learn that during their significant milestones of maturation through life. I agree, Sunflower.
And the worst thing that happened to black women was Britney Spears. First, actually, it was Jenna Oy on Blossom. Six, when white girls started embracing the butt and went from Sigourney Weaver type butt in Alien to Britney Spears kind of butt in Toxic,
He still can't help
your days were
objectifying
numbered.
women.
When J Lo became a fly girl, the secret was out that non-black women will gladly court, date, flirt, get with, and marry black men.
So what is the
They'll
problem
go
with
against the
interracial dating?
grain if the man is valuable enough. They'll go against their family, their cultural programming, everything else, because the reward is so good. And because black men are known to be raised in the matriarchy, women have heard that black men are some of the easiest men to get along with because we actually listen to our women. You got the best group of men on the planet and you treat them the worst.
Wow.
Now, understand something, ladies. You cannot love what you don't acknowledge exists. What does that mean? How many times, black men, have you heard that high value black men don't exist? There's no such thing as a high value black man. Then you cannot love black men if you don't think high value black men exist. You can't love what you don't acknowledge exists.
Let me make this very clear. I don't think that anybody at any point in any life ever said that any type of high value person didn't exist, because value is attributed to a person based on your individual reflections of what you need. And if you can find what you need in a partner, right, in a partnership, potential partnership, if you're sitting with and vetting the potential courtship of a guy, and that guy possesses all of the qualities that you're looking for in a man, essentially, and he has none of the qualities that are on your non-negotiable list as a woman, whether you're black or otherwise, that man becomes high value. His value goes from baseline potential to, oh my God, who sent you? Oh God, I love you. So the reality is this: I think that he has a skewed reality when it comes to what a high value man is, because he's been trying so hard for all of his life in these failed marriages where he didn't provide for these women financially. He's been trying to accomplish what they were looking for in him, because they expected him to provide financially and he didn't have the means to do so. Therefore, he's learned as he's repositioned himself that he gets the attention and the approval of other men more so, even though he's still not getting the attention and approval of the women. He's getting the attention and approval of women, I mean men, other men, and that makes him feel more viable as a man. You said, let me look at this. Black men from other cultures will not agree to a lot of things American black men agree to. I don't necessarily agree to that, because there are a lot of things that, and I'm only talking about um men, black men, okay, who a black man of substance. That's what I'm gonna say. And just to make it very clear, black men of substance are like any other man of substance, and men of substance have no color. There is no color, there is no culture. You're either valuable, you're a person that values the person that you're with, and as a result, you add value to them consistently over the course of you being tethered to their energy, or you're a person of low value and of low substance or no substance, and all you do is take, 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 and you can never contribute anything positive to the situation that you're in. So that here we're going to talk about the realism of life, right? And the realism of life is that we live in a world where people are spiritual elements tethered to one another for a purpose and a particular time frame. So we may have a time frame that's longitudinal towards infinite, right? That's your life partner when you discover that person at whatever stage of life you discover that person, but your experiences before you get to that person may entail another person who is meant to be tethered to you in an intimate partner relationship for a small amount of time. That person may be of a different race than you, culture than you. However, they can add value in the way that you, at that point of your life, deem fit for a person adding value to you. And then you can discover over the course of your relationship with that person that, you know what, I might need a little bit more, or maybe I need to add this particular boundary to my list because I found that I felt really uncomfortable in these spaces where this person operated from this particular framework or did this particular thing. So now another boundary is added to the list to prepare you for the experience with your life partner, your soul, your soulmate, your end all be all. Okay. And so you said there's a culture, don't be deceived or even think that culture doesn't play a role. Culture only plays a minimal role. What we find in human beings is they are shaped by a combination of things that are from traditional components of their culture. Culture is like family of origin. It's an extension of family of origin. Family of origin conditioning comes from what your family members, your parents, your primary caregivers believe your gender role and your humanity should be shaped around. So they condition you with those things, and then you go out into your environment, primary environment, first exposure environment. You learn how to make friends, what friendships look like. You learn how to like girls and like learn how to like boys and things like that, what that looks like. And you evolve from those states of being by way of you having further experiences as you move into the larger sector of the world, and you start to apply some of the things that you learned from then, but you also start to evolve in a world that is different than what your family of origin was. That is the grand scheme of things. So if you're in America, it doesn't matter what culture you may have come from when you were being conditioned by your parents. So you could be a Hispanic American, Latino American, you could be an African American, you can be an Asian American, a Russian American. You get where I'm going? European American. And your those standards that came here, you don't acculturate per se, but you would definitely assimilate to the environment that you're in. And assimilation means that you understand that the environment and the context that you must operate in is not indicative of what your cultural upbringing said. And so you have to then adapt. So you're learning as you go and applying the knowledge from your previous exposures and experiences in environment and culture and in, with your peers, right, in your environment. You're applying all of those things to how you approach relationships. Excuse me. And so that has nothing to do with what Kevin Samuel sees as goals in life. Now, that would be like saying a man values his mom and his dad's input on his wife over that of his own internal spirit aligning with this woman that he's chosen as his wife. The reality is he doesn't. It doesn't matter what culture it is. They leave. Thank you, Lisa. And they are productive in those marriages because mama don't have to like my wife. I've chosen her. She's chosen me. Our spirits chose each other. We could be Asian and black. And believe me, that's going to cause some real issues. No, it doesn't apply to people. So there is a difference between assimilation and acculturation. So it doesn't apply to people that have adopted American culture. When you come into America from another country, assimilation is a necessity. When you apply for citizenship, why do you think that they're required to learn the constructs of American history? They have to know about the flag. They have to know about the wars here. They have to know, yeah, they have to know the Constitution. They have to know about all of the amendments. They have to know what rights they have now as citizens. Yeah, they have to learn everything about American culture. That's not devaluing your culture of origin. That's assimilating to the country where you're responsible for being a citizen. So you're also responsible for knowing how to operate in the society in which you're now a citizen. Okay. So society in that particular country will guide and shape what your traditions do or don't continue to do. You understand what I'm saying by that? So that doesn't mean that you're acculturating yourself and you're moving away from your culture. It just means that you're appropriating how you operate in this society because you're now a citizen of this particular place. That's what that means. And you could very much still value your old value system. However, if you find yourself aligned with a person and your spirit calls to a person that is outside of your culture or your parents' expectations for who you're going to date, if we take a really good example, are people that are from Pakistan and come here and they've been here for a while, right? Um, I just, for I could name a very specific example, but I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to say that there are several people who find that, what, after being exposed to all these different people, because that's what's different about America, just to make that very clear. Being exposed to all these different people, I find them to be extremely exuberant. I love their energy. I love their knowledge. I love the way they look. I like the way they make me feel. These people impact me. These people have great productivity, right? And so now they want to align themselves with those people. So this is not theory, this is science of humanity. This is what we've learned from several years, decades of research, studying people. So we learned that that's how we know what the difference between assimilation and acculturation is. But that's a whole class, right? But yeah, the citizenship is very extensive about the knowledge of Americanism and what it means to be an American. Let's put it like that. Because it's important for you, if you're going to have somebody become a citizen, they're also responsible for obeying laws. They also are responsible for knowing the history that contributed to those laws. They're also responsible for functioning in society that was already brought up, shaped and cultivated and molded around those said laws and principles, right? They're in your American schools. So it doesn't mean that you're moving away from culture that, shaped you initially. It just moves that it means that you're assimilating because it's necessary for you to become a citizen here. I hope I made that clear. But so the thing is, when you think that women are in competition, especially when you're talking about a particular race and culture of women being and feeling like they're in competition with another race and culture of, nobody's in competition. Women are never in competition. The only people in competition are men. It's masculine to compete. Women don't compete when it comes to the favor of a man. You guys are the ones that are supposed to be out seeking women. And so, if you're trying to find your woman, then guess what? You're trying to find a woman that aligns with you and your value system. And so, if you find a woman that aligns with your value system, if you find a woman that is in alignment with what you want, right, out of your woman, it doesn't matter what color she is or race she is. That woman, now you have to compete to keep her in your purview to continue moving forward with her, because she might have another suitor that is pursuing her. And another suitor that is pursuing her. So until she becomes your wife, you're the one who is in competition. A woman could have several proposals. During the very short window of me being single, I have been proposed to over 20 something odd, 26 times in like 2 months, in a 2 month period. And for me, what that says is, and I have a very, very interesting system when it comes to dating. I do process of elimination. I'm not calling you back. Once I say there is no other date, I'm moving on to another potential suitor. You only have my attention and time for as long as I see value in you and I moving forward. That's how women operate. So if a woman no longer sees value in you and she conjoining and moving forward, she is going to drop you. Period. That's a woman of substance. I don't believe in wasting my time because time is something you can never get back. Ever. Ever. Once it's gone, it's gone. Period. So if you're seated before people that feel like they could find value in you, and you could find value in them, what will happen is you will go on to the next phase. And while you move into the next phase, it's exclusivity between you and that person, right? But the moment that person sees something that's misaligned with longitudinal outcomes, and you are dismissed, oftentimes your feelings are still there, because at the end of the day, as a man, when you're spending your time and attention with a woman, it's very different than the woman's experience. She's evaluating your appropriateness for her life moving forward, her appropriateness for your life moving forward, based off of how you guys are experiencing courtship. I can't say how Black America operates. I'm Finnish American. So every Finnish woman operates in this way. It's just kind of the way that I was conditioned. So I can't talk about the Black American experience, not really. I can talk about the ones that I've seen in session. I and things like that here. But I can definitely speak to the fact that this is also how several white American, Asians, Europeans, Africans, this is how they operate, period. So courtship is a process, and it's supposed to be about pragmatics. If someone is not in alignment with you, you're supposed to do your due diligence and know enough about yourself and your process to dismiss and move forward. Dismiss and move forward. I think what has happened over the course of men in Black America is that they're not used to the dismiss and move forward process. What they're accustomed to is so many Black women over the course of time allowing themselves to be constantly exposed to a man and overstaying their welcome, overstaying their purpose in their life, right? So exactly, a woman is only supposed to be choosing. She's not competing for what? For what? If the man is right for her, is the if the energy is right, because a woman is a receiver, a man is a giver. So if the man as a giver walks into the room and his energy resonates with that woman, I know that men have the mindset that if I walk into a room filled with women, then I'm gonna get all of those women and they're all gonna be crowded around me and they're gonna want this with me and that with me and this with me. But the reality is this: only one of those women, if that woman is meant for you, if she is your soulmate, you're only going to resonate with her in that way. The other women, you may be an attractive guy. We may take notice and say, "Oh, girl, he is together. Look at him." But you don't resonate. You don't move her spirit. You don't make her go tingly on the inside. You do nothing for her. On an innate level, she's just going to respond and say, "Well, hello, how are you, sir? You look good." And we get us giving you a compliment for how you look has nothing to do with how you resonate with us. Women are naturally spiritual creatures and we're constantly taking in energy. That's why, the extensive conversation about soul ties is being something that most men are now becoming more aware of, because women are naturally tethered that way. They're naturally built that way. So you said side chicks disapprove this. Now, I'm not talking about the side chick thing. I'm not talking about, remember, I talked about people being in your life for a length of time. So it doesn't mean that these, I'm not talking about situations where you're not looking for companionship longitudinally, or you're not at that level of maturation in your life to have that yet, because that doesn't come automatically. That's something that comes with time and maturation in life. So, for some people it happens at 19, for some people it happens at 26, for some people it doesn't happen to their 50s. Growing up isn't something that's natural, right? It's something that we have to choose to do. I tell people all the time, growth is inevitable, but maturation is a choice. So if you're growing up, that means you're maturing to a different level. Growing in general, you could be growing but just not making any emotional maturation along the course. So emotional retardation is definitely a thing. So you said Africans operate. Let's go back to that comment. My son just married a woman in Africa, by the way, and we sat for quite a while with that family. And I've dated in Africa while in Africa, living there. So let's talk about this. It says African operates like Hispanics when it comes to marriage because women know that they have to compete for a suitable man. Um, no. And Hispanic women are not competing for any man. I'm just gonna clear that up now. They're just not. And in Africa, to be honest with you, for a long time, marriages were arranged more so than they were not. And in Africa, women are not competing for men either. Men have a natural tendency to go out and vie for the courtship of women. And you know what, I think I'm gonna do a cultural appropriation show. I'm gonna have about 150 African people come on to a show, and we'll have a panel where I'm featuring several of them at one time, because I think that that's what Black people need in America, because you guys do a lot of comparisons that are inaccurate, very inaccurate. And I think that if you go back on my YouTube, you will see a couple of Black clinicians, African clinicians that are in Africa still. You'll hear them talk about what their culture does look like around relationships and dating, because we've had those topics. We've also talked about mental health in Africa, in the context of where they are, where they've grown up, where they work, where they still currently live, and they've never been to America and really probably could care less. But I think that once you guys see those viewpoints of those female clinicians and those male clinicians, you will have probably a very more expanded outlook, and you'll be able to see what it really looks like for them. So not what the TV shows you per se. I mean, you could definitely look at some African movies too. YouTube has an abundance of them. Not that I'm promoting that, you know, but It's out there. Um, so I think, but what I'm getting to is this: people are marrying, people are finding the people that they're meant to be with. And they're only successful in those relationships when they allow themselves to be vulnerable in their search for one as men, and that's a really hard one for men. Vulnerability is hard for men because so many men have their guards up, especially in the Black community. And I think coming into a place where you're owning that insecurity, you're owning that defense mechanism, you're owning the inadequacies that exist within yourself. Women do that very naturally for the vast majority. You have a lot of women that experience trauma, and that prevents them from doing the same. So I think that that's where the incongruence and the problems come into play in relationships in the Black community, because when you become unauthentic, inauthentic in your experiencing, in your journey in life, you limit your cognizant awareness. So you don't even know what you're doing while you're doing it, and that thing is toxic. And when I said to Trey's comment, when I said that I'm not talking about people that are just looking for a side chick, right? Because their goals are different and they're in a different space at that moment. What I'm saying is not all people are at the level of maturation to where they're looking for companionship just yet, because they're still trying to find themselves and find out how companionship's and the ideal of companionshhips resonate with them, right? So you said not those Africans who have adopted American culture. I think you're just saying that's okay. I'm not defending matriarchy or patriarchy. This conversation is around emotional maturation. So, you know, you living around Africans in America is an interesting thing. So when I say that I'm going to have a show that features African people are now a part of my extended family. My son is married to a Ugandan woman. So if he's there, that's his everyday life, that's where they live. Like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. But for us, we're immersed in the culture because we had to do that in order for them to marry. So I'm not sure, you know. But it is what it is. Um as I was saying, I think that people have to come into the realization where they understand that life is not about a competition thing. Men and women are not in competition with one another. Social comparison leads to the detriment of sense of self. I keep saying that, and I know that you guys really don't understand that, but go out there, do some research on social comparison theory and what it looks like when it's healthy versus when it's unhealthy. When you look to everybody in your surroundings and you want to say that I'm better than this person, I'm better than this person, I'm better than this person, and that's the way that you position yourself in a relationship to where you feel worthy, those are inferiority complexes, because you've learned to compare and contrast yourself to other people and not the standard of life that you have set for yourself by way of internal self-reflection on what your internal components of capacity look like, right? So if you do that, you're only in competition with the previous versions of yourself versus you feeling like you're in competition with other people. And that's not necessary. When you find somebody that resonates with you, that makes you want to be a better version of you, that makes you want to love, care, and attenuate all of your senses and energy to them, what happens is you grow into a different space of understanding. And until you have that, life is very difficult. And some people get into that without even knowing what that really entails if it's healthy. As a result, those people struggle in their relationships. Those people have a tremendous amount of disrespect for one another. All types of betrayals take place because you have no sense of self. How can you respect someone else? right? So there are so many things here, you understand, but it's not a comparison where women are concerned, if whether they're black or not, about losing their men to white women. Just like you see white men, I mean black men get married to white women, you see black women get married to white men. You see black women get married to Asian men. It's a thing. It's a thing. They date one another because it's not about what's on the outside. I think that American people have a real issue with looking at what's on the outside instead of looking at what's on the inside that resonates with a person. Forced relationships never work longitudinally because you're forcing yourself to be connected to someone that doesn't add value to the spirit of you. The spirit of a person is what is put out here into the energy of the atmosphere every single day, you know. But let's hit the play button. I need to go to a specific place in this so before we go.
If you don't think it exists, stop looking for it. And ladies, hold on, strap in. Your mama, your big mama, your nana, your auntie, and them have raised you to be the very thing you hate. You got a commitment issue. You got a trauma you don't want to give yourself because the guy that imprinted on you in college uh, never had time for you, ran around with his boys, spent all his time studying or whatever, then you turn around and become the very same thing in the work world.
I got a particular place that I'm going to in this conversation,
So
you
many of
guys.
our pretty professional women who should be with high value men are hiding at work, hiding
I'm a PhD.
behind PhDs, hiding
His
and
jealousy for
wasting
women
your
is
time.
real.
Unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How old are you?
I'm 27 years old.
So why are black women losing high value black men to white women?
I feel like the number one thing is we didn't have a good example. Like, I feel like a lot of us were raised in single households, me especially. So we don't really know how to cater to a man, how to treat a man, how to be submissive because we were raised by strong black women. Yeah, so that's what I think.
You're 27?
I'm 27, yes.
You have any children?
I have one child.
Okay. And so are you looking to date a high value man?
Um, I feel like everybody's gonna say that, yes, but are you worthy of a high value man is another question. So
Yep.
yes, I would love that, but you have to like be realistic and ask yourself, like, are you worthy of it?
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you and your child's father work out?
Say it again.
Why didn't you and your child's father work out?
Woo. So,
First off, were you guys married?
we were not married. He is 9 years older than me.
Okay. I don't know what that means, but and the reason I ask is because so many of our women have children outside of wedlock and then want to marry later on.
Mm-hmm.
Hindrance. Was your mother married to your father?
She was not.
Okay. Um, well, hold on just a second. I'm gonna go ahead and get a few more people on here, but you can stay here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm put that line. Go ahead, Kizzy. Go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Hello, Kevin. How you doing?
I am well. How old are you?
I'm 39
All right. Why are black women losing high value black men to white women?
because they don't know how to cater.
Hmm.
Yes,
Are you
black
are
women,
you
Mind you, this is
are
the
you
third
single?
married woman.
I'm not single.
Are you married?
I am.
All right. So again, I'm still trying to keep the subject to the single women. Okay.
Okay. But
Appreciate
yes,
Okay.
I just wanted to add that.
Okay. Yeah. I'm trying not to be rude. The next married woman I get on here, and you've heard me say this, I'm not going to be nice. Okay. That's the disclaimer. The next married woman that comes on here and just wants to add your 2 cents when I have effing said I'm talking to the single women, I'm going to take it as you're being trolling and you're being intentionally disruptive, and I'm going to act accordingly. Now, I want to look at the members in the chat room, and I'm going to ask chat room moderators, chat room, do you guys think that's fair?
So now he wants
That if
people
I
to
get
give him
another married
approval yet
woman
again.
coming on here who just wants to add her opinion, that I snap the French toast out on her. Thank you. The chat room is in agreement, so you have been warned. All right, Desi, go ahead. Hello,
Hello, how are you?
I am well. How old are you?
27.
27. What do you
Yeah.
got for me on the topic? Why
Okay, so
black
I
women
feel like
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so I feel like with women, I feel like honestly with myself also I can relate to this. I feel like vulnerability. Um, I feel like most women don't allow men to lead when it comes to I
Mhm.
mean, yes, men to lead when it comes to black men.
Okay.
So yes, that's how I feel about
Do you
that.
do you have any children?
No.
Okay. So I asked everyone the same question. Would you like to be married one day?
I've actually just come around to feeling that way. I used to didn't feel that way, but yes, I do feel that way now.
Well, since we're talking about how high,
Okay, so that's exactly what I was speaking to. So, literally, literally, when that goes to answer your question, Trey, and so many of the other comments that were in the comment. I mean, so many of the other comments that were in the chat on the YouTube side of things. Okay. So the thing is, like this young lady was able to articulate in her experience, she previously didn't want to be married, but at some point she found that she does want, you know, to be married. Okay. So when she found that she did want to marry a man, whether it's a black man, other than a black man, and I didn't play the part where he was having a conversation with a woman earlier who I think she did a really good job in this show of kind of indicating to him that he had some misconceptualizations when it comes to comparative analyses. And that's why I say you need to stop trying to compare other cultures, because if you're going to live and immerse yourself in American culture, you need to only abreast yourself with and align yourself with American culture, right? And those value systems, not the value systems of another culture, right? Because those aren't the ones that you're after. Now, if you are going after those people, assimilate. Find yourself in a place to where you're going to assimilate. And now as a man, you're comparing yourself or competing with the men in their culture who are highly qualified to date those said women that you're looking for. All right. So at the end of the day, you have to do what it takes to position yourself amongst the people that you desire. Period. Period. So, American culture, just in case you didn't know, I mean, if you live in America, you should know what American culture is. American culture is a culture that is built off of freedom away or independence away from the rule of European culture. That's where it evolved from. Then it expanded into the also the vacating and moving away from bondage and slavery constructs of African nations. Then it also moved towards a free nation that was founded by these colonists and these slaves, built by these colonists and these slaves, and then moved into a different directionality by way of providing freedom and protection for people who were running away from their culture in times of war, right? And those people came here for for protections and the same freedoms that other Americans have to gain their citizenship and stay here and build a life for themselves and their families, and to move into a place to where they could be authentic in their religious expression and other forms of self-expression without the constructs of whatever it is that their country that they were fleeing from entailed. So when we see people moving from one culture to another culture, it's oftentimes to get away from the ideals and the radicalism that happens over there, wherever they're from. But the difference in America versus other countries in general is that freedom context. There is a right to free speech, a right to freedom of expression here that doesn't exist in other countries, period. I'm not sure how many of you take sight of what's going on in countries around you in a way that they manage their cultures, but it's very different. So it's not about politics, it's about culture. So your culture is your history. Your history gives context to your culture, literally. Hey, official urban therapist, what's going on? Hey, City News, how are you? And hello, hello, hello to everybody in the chat that I'm not addressed already. But what I wanted to kind of go to is the fact that at the point where this young lady has decided that she wants to align herself with the husband, she notices that not only herself but other people around her in her age group, because look at her age, right? She's learned that this group of individuals, this generation of people, both men and women, are struggling with vulnerability. And I talked about that pretty detailed over the course of several of these lives. But you have to be open to being authentically who you are, but also being very curious about your becoming. I did answer the question. Maybe I didn't give you the answer that you were looking for, but that's the answer to the question. What do you want me to do? Pull up a history lesson again and give you a cultural history lesson about where America evolved from and what shapes the expectations and conditions of Americanism? Is that what we're gonna do? Because I've already done one of those, two videos like that actually. So you might want to go back a couple of videos, a few videos. Go back to end of June, beginning of July videos where I talked about why Black Americans should celebrate 4th of July and the importance of Juneteenth to those, you know, people who celebrate Juneteenth and though all of that stuff in Texas. So I'm gonna direct you to those videos because that's not what this one is about. But so um to go back to my previous point that I was making, it's very important for you to align yourself with accepting and moving in a place of curiosity so that you can accept your truths and you can build upon what you learn, right? The more you know, the more you grow, right? That's something that I've always taught my kids, which is why they were able to move around and maneuver themselves amongst other cultures so well, because they always were very curious regardless of what they had learned prior to us moving into these countries and things like that. They were still very curious about what that process looked like intimately for these particular cultures, because one thing can be written in a textbook but another thing can be taken from a current worldview of what these people now move and operate in and from. The internet has a lot of information, but if is that information reliable when it comes to a comparative analysis of all people in that representative sample? Sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. So I think that curiosity, it seats us in a position to where we're able to receive people and meet people where they are, whoever they are. So when I see a Black male, I don't see a man who ain't shit. When I see a Black female, I don't see a woman who ain't shit. When I see a Black female, even dressed in a certain type of dress, I don't see a streetwalker, because guess what? I've learned that in American culture nowadays, a lot of these outfits can look a certain way that fit a certain stereotype, but it has nothing to do with the content of that person's character. Hell, maybe they woke up and they were hot and they say, you know what, let me go out the door with this bra on and these shorts. And it's a normative thing for y'all to do that now. I'm finding that out because, like, I was at Sam's Club yesterday and I was like, we're doing that? This girl got on the sports bras and booty shorts. This is like the 15th time that I've seen it over the last couple of months. I see it at Lenox Mall when I go there. You see it everywhere. So, hey Casey, what's going on? So, I think that the real question is not why are black women losing black men to white women. The real question is why are so many black people not educated as to what their culture entail and continuously trying to compare and identify with other cultures outside of American cultures because these truths are too difficult for them to sit with as they define what American culture entails, where it's going, where it's been, and how that resonates with these people. So I think that that's the larger question that we've got to ask ourselves. Why is it so difficult for us to sit with our truth and allow it to be a component to our growth and elevation and insight? Because we now know where we came from and we can now formulate more pragmatic ideas as to where it is that we need to position ourselves to go and grow into. So, I mean, Sandy says, why? So that's why all these women call Kevin Show because the information that they've been getting from the internet is reliable. Pandering doesn't produce outcomes. Well, I think that we see that Kevin Samuels is definitely pandering. He shifted his position. He was a guy that told women that their value was in their sexual marketplace value. Today, he started off this show. Maybe you weren't here from the beginning. He started off this show saying that now a woman's value and what black high value men want is a woman who is loving, compassionate, caring, and has the spirit of possesses the spirit of a real woman essentially. So he's definitely pandering now. Now before he may have been just trauma bonding, but now I appreciate that sentiment from a person that's a Kevin Samuels follower. He's definitely pandering. So maybe you should go watch that show. You should watch that show. And even though he's struggling with it, I gotta give the guy a thumbs up for making some level of growth over the course of him being in this show, doing this show, I mean, and being in this industry on YouTube and being so very negative over the many years. But the reality is this, just like he had so many women calling his show that were black women who were married for years, for longitudinally and happy. The reality is that misconstruct that he has that there are so many black women are single because black men aren't choosing them. No, you're looking at inundated information and inaccurate information. So many black women are single because they are in relationships with other black women and they happen to be lesbian women and they're happy in those relationships and their state hasn't allowed marriage to take place yet, right? So if you're looking at the realities around the single versus not single argument, you can't, none of us can give an accurate number of how many women or men will get married because we're not looking, you can't look at the stats like that anymore. The reality is we live in a place now where American culture is very accepting of and approving of and protecting of the growing number of people who identify with the LGBTQIA plus community, and the expansiveness of the LGBTQIA plus community makes it very difficult to try and gauge the realities around who will and won't get married, what the divorce statistics really do say and what they don't say, and things like that. So, you know, it is what it is. So I hope that you guys have gained insight and education from this video. Um, I do think official urban therapists that it is causing a lot of people to move away from the idea that marriage is a possibility for them. Um, because I think that over time he has conditioned a misconceptualization of what the experience of being black entails. And I think it's really easy for people who are lost and misguided already to subscribe to that same ideology when they've had, similar traumas, right, in those areas. So yes, after Cynthia made that video with a white man, this was expected. Kevin is aware of everything goes on in YouTube space. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. because even after after I've tagged him in so many videos, we started to see, and I think I talked about this on my show where the official urban therapist was co-hosting. We talked about how we started to see him reshape and try to now invite the woman to share her perspectives of why she feels the way she feels, blah blah blah, instead of just directly combating and belittling them as he normally does. But also, he's losing followers. I don't know how many people have been paying attention to that. So he's got to start doing the same thing that he was doing before, because apparently that's why those people are there. That level of toxicity is a necessary component for him to keep his channel balanced. Even if you still have over 1 million followers, you still got to understand that these people are coming to view your content for a reason. Bullying them into hitting the like button isn't going to increase, you know, the propensity for these people to follow. And I'm not subscribing. I get his stuff, so you're saying, oh, you mean initiate 80% of divorce? It's going to be on Kevin. This was going on before Kevin Samuels. Yeah, so I'm not saying that. So when you say that women initiate, so as a marriage and family therapist who is a court provisional provider, okay, for couples experiencing divorces, I'm going to say this. Just because a woman files for a divorce doesn't mean the woman initiated the divorce. And so that's why I say you can't look at numbers, because the numbers don't provide context. Okay. So there is no reliability in the numbers, because you can't, unless you're looking at the court transcripts as to why these divorces came about, unless you're looking at what these people's relationships look like and what those issues were in their relationships, because that's what I do. Okay, I look at the things that you don't see. I get the information that they don't share with you. I get what's behind closed doors that you don't get. So that's one of the benefits of being in my position versus Kevin Samuel's position, being just looking at things from the surface. So I'm looking at the intersystemic issues that people are dealing with, and the things that they're struggling with trying to overcome in order to sustain healthy marriages. I'm looking at the lack of information that they're letting me know that they had going into that relationship, that left them ill prepared to continue the relationship longitudinally. And I do think that Kevin has some reliability when he talks initially, before he started pandering to this initiative. I think that he was right about the vast majority of some men. I'm not going to say high value men, but some men having the misconstruct that women need to look a certain way, and so now they want to marry them. I'm saying that people on the outside looking in to figure out what their propensity for marriage is or marital success cannot rely on the stats. Yes, the statistics are not there for people to figure out if they're gonna get married or divorced. The statistics are only there so that we can know in the relationship field, people who are going into this work, so we can know that there will be the propensity for us to maintain in our positions as people who work in this field. That's what they're for. So the statistics will tell you nothing about why these people are going through the problems that they're going through. It will tell you nothing about the intimacies of the relationship problems either, because now that they have allowed so many divorces to go through the process of publication, and allowed so many people to do uncontested divorces, so you don't hear what the arguments are, and there are no transcripts of the divorces, because they both agree to the divorce proceedings and they just sign before they ever get to court. You will never know the intricacies as to what makes or breaks a marriage, unless you're a marriage and family therapist, unless you're a couples therapist and this is what you do, because you have the tenure to do so. We don't just roll out of high school, out of bed, and on a YouTube and do this. Not this work. Comes with a shitload of education behind you, a shitload of tenure and respect from your peers, because this is what we study: human behavior, the science of human behavior, and intimacy in relationships, discord in relationships, what makes arguments healthy, versus unhealthy, productive versus unproductive, and things like that. But um I am trying to make it through you guys' comments, but statistics can't predict the future. They can only tell us where we've been. uh so oh, I agree. Now black men are telling black women to not get educated and don't want you on those college campuses to meet those good quality. I agree. I agree, City News. Because I feel like Sin and Kevin are two arch enemies battling the soft spot. Yep. You know what? I talked about that in my why black men and women need to stop comparing themselves to one another and reduce the level of competition between one another. But you know what? Let me to say something to this comment. The reality is this: when you ever heard the term "a hit dog will holler," right? So it's just one of those things. They go back and forth with one another, and they're in direct competition of one another, and the people that are following them are just collateral damage. And I spoke to this when I was talking to my producer about my extensive review of Cynthia G content and stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons that I just like have I'm indifferent to that, because at the end of the day, I've talked about what I see there. Is very clear, the traumas that are, there for Kevin Samuels and his followers, Cynthia G and her followers. So I just feel like, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I'd rather argue the issues, debunk the myths, um, and the swayed stats. So you said I think it's smart for high value males to not acknowledge the stats. Women in this day and age are looking for an uneven exchange and press the man for to be traditional. Gotta stay sucker free. Only you, Casey. Only you. Only you. Only you. You said what sense does it make to discourage someone from getting higher? So to be honest with you, Liz, I kind of answered that in what I just said with the content creators, the two going head to head. So it reduces the competition, and it reduces the amount of insecurities that men have in their leadership position in the relationship, because the problem in the black community is that men are not being taught the accurate position of leadership, and women are not being taught the accurate position of leadership, because they both have one of leadership. I think that people misconstrue submission with devaluation and a loss of sense of self, right? And that only happens if you allow that to happen. But in the grand scheme of things, submission is a very powerful position to maintain, but it's a separate position in a separate space and time and attenuation than that of a male's position of leadership in a relationship. So I think that when you don't have proper training and proper insight and education as to how it is you make these relationships work and how these two positions balance one another, you end up with these misconstructs going into relationships sideways, and the relationships end prematurely, and it leads to people devaluing people's education and ability to help in the capacity that they can help one and elevate, right? So um you say you never told anyone to go. A hot girl summer, according to Kevin Samuels, does equate to finding a husband. Because he says that in his normal rhetoric, a woman's value is in her sexual marketplace value, not in her actual value. Um, says, I find it interesting that Kevin Samuels started quoting outdated, non peer reviewed sources, stats, and his followers are quoting the same. Exactly. Exactly. But the crazy thing is this, like, I think that to have any stats that makes the argument look like it has sense for people that have zero sense around the argument at all, right? So people have no education at all. So they're ignorant to the facts around this subject altogether. If you are ignorant to a subject altogether, and I tell you that these stats say this, I can misconstrue those stats and make them read however it is I want them to read in order for me to draw you in with these and make you feel valid in how you have been proceeding in life and how you've been missing the mark, or you know what I mean, things like that. So that's what it's really about. And I think that Kevin Samuels definitely said himself that he's able to manipulate statistics and numbers. He said that in his interview on with Vlad TV. I think that many people who have already subscribed to his ideals though are having a really difficult time with processing what that really means for them, because that's how they found and honed into their sense of self and grandiosity that they've gotten as a means or as a result of connecting themselves with Kevin Samuels. So it's a more deeper issue than we are acknowledging, essentially. But like I said, I think the real question here is, why is it that so many men are pressed about what a woman's life looks like and who she's in or isn't in competition with? And why is it that black people feel like they have to be in competition at all? I personally don't feel like any women of substance that I know for sure, tens of thousands of them, black women that I know, none of them are in competition, not with one another, and definitely not with women of other cultures. They're just not. Nor are they subscribing to the unhealthy value system that the only thing that they have to value in of value in a relationship is their vagina and their physical features. Okay, you can be an attractive woman and attract a man, but that man is toxic in his presentation and his value system, and only takes from your positive energy flow in and what you put into the universe, like literally. So I think that people have to be more protective of their peace. People have to find a way to align their spirit with the right person that they are meant to be with, and they have to learn how to value a person appropriately based on what value that person adds to their lives. So high value can look a lot of different ways, and it has nothing to do with those basic constructs that are described to people by Kevin Samuels in that ridiculous grandiosity that he now sits in. Now that he's gotten a little bit of money, he has a broke man's mindset. So if you follow a man with a broke man mindset, so will you have the same outcomes. So invest in the community in which your preference lies and get yourself together, people. You know, find peace and personal identification and personal identity in self. You know, validate yourself. Stop looking for men. Hear me. Let me make myself look bigger. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of this. Men, you're not boys. Black men, you are not undervalued. Women love you. We love our black men. You are worthy. Behave like it. Look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, today I am worthy, and today I'm getting myself ready to go out there and find my queen. And that could be a year-long process. It could be years long, okay? But you have to first value yourself and then conduct yourself in a respectful manner in order for women to receive you that way. And the problem is, many men won't do that because they're too concerned about what women may think. Women can only think what you lead them to think about you in your actions. So if your actions are in alignment with you having a high value for yourself, by way of you conducting yourself like you have respect for yourself instead of going out here slutting yourself in these streets, exploring your options on your royal, whatever it is you want to say that it is. You know, if it says that you care about the type of man that you're becoming because you know that you are a positive infliction in society, and you're trying to navigate through all the negative energy in society, when you move in that way, women have no choice but to value you because you've stepped into your royalty, to the essence of it. You are a king. Behave like kings. Kings don't go and follow gestures, okay? This guy's for entertainment. Elevate your game. That's all I got, you guys. See you guys later. Bye.
Who alive can't put me in a box. I redefine any definition you got. I am the tiger, I'm making steps to the top. The flames, I rip it up, you just gotta hand me the rock. Take a seat, you cannot stand it. All I know, the flow harder than a Scotch bonnet. Don't try studying me, you cannot manage. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon.